Hopefully we're good. Time will tell. I'm live, but not yet. So 2 people are here. Hello, 2 people. Hi there. And hello to those watching later. It's the Nazarite bringing you Hebrew lore from days of yore. Okay, wow. So it's the night that Hanukkah leaves us. It was Hanukkah throughout the day, and now when the sun set a few hours ago, the Hanukkah holiday went along with it. And I hope that I will be able to gain that strength from the holiday and rededicate myself, just as the rebels in the House of Hashmonai rededicated the temple. Hang on a sec. Let's put my tea bag somewhere else. Okay. I am with forest fruit tea. Okay, so let's see. I have a couple of comments. I think I did get to the end of the chat last week, but I'll check on Monday, but I'll check. Either way, there are a couple of comments I wanted to address, but first, the chat here. Sneezer, can't do it, he says. My body's on night shift for some reason, and 2 p.m. is just too late for me. Have a good show. I'll catch the replay. Well, Sneezer, you know I deeply appreciate it. Get some rest. Prioritize your sleep. Right? Sleep is a human superpower. It's amazing what it can do for us. Robert says, Shalom. And he continues, I'm reading the Bible through cover to cover, but going in order of sequence the way things happened. Like we're in Bereshit, and during Bereshit we jump to Yov, and back to Bereshit. Okay, so you're doing things chronologically, in the order of the way things happen, he says. Okay. And then he asks, was the land of Nod the eastern gates of Eden, the modern-day land of Iran? So was the land of Nod the modern-day land of Iran? No, I don't think so. I think Nod would be east of Eden, and I don't think that it's modern-day Iran. Well, look, again, there's the higher Eden and the lower Eden, and you know, it's a physical place, it's a spiritual place, it's a metaphysical place. I'm still not convinced that it is a physical place, and perhaps even though, right, let's say the rivers are mentioned there, and one of them is Prat, which is runs through Iraq, or next to Iraq, anyway, close to Iran. But it intrigued me, that question, which I saw just as I was, prepping over here. So I looked up the Hebrew Wikipedia, and I was like, you know what? I don't know if I ever learned the geographical location of Nod, right? The land of Nod that Cain went to. And so it says that there is no agreed, there is no consensus on whether or not it's an actual place. Rashi, Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki, said that Eretz Nod, the land of Nod, is a refuge for exiles, just as such. The Vilna Gaon from a few hundred years ago, he said that Eretz Nod is the land of Israel, because Israel are to be out of it, just like Cain was cast out of the area where he was, right? And he was destined to go and roam. Of course, he settled and built a city in that place, but and a third interpretation by Professor Zeli Gurevich, he says that it's actually not a place at all, but a state of mind where you are constantly in exile, sort of existentially, and you are always moving from place to place, actually, practically. And so any land that you come to is a land of wandering, right? Lindod, to wander. Cain was a wanderer, even after he built the city and settled. Seemingly, he settled geographically, but he himself was always wandering. And well, there's a lot to say about being a nomad. There's a lot to say about having a place to hang your hat. Different people are. I know that, for instance, those who wanted to be those who wanted to tax their bodies and their spirits, their minds, let's say, and they would go and they would make a pilgrimage. They would go and they would become wanderers, right, and have no permanent address. They would be nomads, vagabonds, call me what you will, right, wherever I may roam. So Eretz Nod, I'd never learned, as far as I know, that it was a geographical location that we know of today, I mean. You could argue, obviously, some say the Bible actually is the geographical locations of all these things, some say it's all fairy tales. You know what, I think of this already. Okay, so Robert continues and says, I thought Eden was the name of the garden, but the whole Middle East was named Eden, just found that out. Right, it was Eden, and there was a Gan, a garden, inside of Eden. It's Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, not the Eden Garden, the Garden of Eden. Hey, Eiler, look at that, you're on time. Hello, la la la. Indeed, you are on time. And a few other people are here. Hello, declare yourselves. How are you? How's your 2025 been? How's your Hanukkah been? Whatever it is that your Christmas, whatever it is that you celebrated, whatever it is that you observed. And now currently, right, it's only the beginning of January. Any New Year's resolutions you have? Any tips regarding resolutions? Anything like that? What would you want for yourself physically, mentally, spiritually? Robert says God would not let them eat the fruit of life without being redeemed. Right, because we don't want reality like this, sort of forever. We want to move on to the next great phase. We want to partake of the fruit of the tree of life because we have earned it. At least that's how I see it. And so, yes, without being redeemed is a good way to say it. That's right. We shall be redeemed, and then we'll partake of the fruit of the tree of life. But the redemption, Yah willing, will come from us, each with his or her own heart and mind and soul. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech haolam, שהכל יהיה בדברו. Not too sweet. I like it. Since they knew good and evil, they would be able to live forever. So, wait. Since they knew good and evil, they would be able to live forever. Because they partook of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, because they now knew good and evil, they would be able to? Is it a causal effect? Am I understanding you correctly? Because I don't quite follow the logic. I know that in Bereshit it says, right, that pen, right, lest this should happen and they will be living forever in this reality. No, they need to be redeemed, then they can partake of it. Eiler says, wish everyone to dwell in prosper and wealth and good spirit. Amen, right? Amen means emet, means truth. May it be so. May it be so. Prosperity, wealth, good spirit, and peace. Peace holds more blessings than everything and anything. Ariel says, evening, how did you come to the conclusion that the Middle East specifically was called Eden, Robert? Yes, I was wondering that too. I know that some people are saying that, yes, it was a very sacred place. The land of Israel is very sacred, and so it meant that. Eiler says, I myself kicking off this year with a hiking challenge, collecting as many kilometers in 60 days as possible. As many as possible? And why 60 days? Do you mind? And it is do you have, yes? They're over there. Which one are you looking for? Take it. And please close the door. Thank you.
Love you.
Love you too, baby. So yeah, why 60 days? And how long have you been equipment with? Buried things along the way throughout the trail? Is it spontaneous? Tell me more about the hike. Tell me more about the nature of the challenge. I'm curious. Just off into nature, right? Is it a designated? I have so many questions. Robert says, if they could have ate of the fruit of life, they could have lived forever with the power and knowledge of doing evil. So God stopped that with the cherubim, right? With the kuvim. Where's my tea? Here it is. Yeah. את הקרובים ואת להט החרב המתהפכת. לשמור את דרך עץ חיים. To guard the path to guard the path of the tree of life. Guard the path. Right, we are supposed to contend with this good and evil. We are supposed to make something more of it, right? Like we read in Orot HaTshuvah at the time. We're inside of creation's limited nature. There is the ability to rise above its own limitations. Both of those things happen at, in the very same time. What is it that we give more force to? The part of us that is limited or the part of us that is limitless? What is it that where are we putting our efforts, And do we lament our limitations? Do we find ways to transcend them? So many arbitrary limitations we're faced with here, the laws of nature and your own biological composition and whatever. What is it you do with the time you have? What is it you do with what you're given? To live forever. That's the fruit of the tree of life, but it's a whole other life, a whole other trip. Okay, let's go for a couple of comments from the last few days. Nancy Roach, right? So I was talking about the mustache, and I snip the tips of it to reveal the upper lip because it helps me when I'm eating and it helps me when I'm kissing. And so she said, kissing is very important. It's right up there with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Food, kissing, then safety. Haha, she says. Well, maybe that's an exaggeration, but you must keep your pretty queen happy, so snip away when needed. And I do. And she continues and says, tell us about the ketubah. Do you have one? Did you write it? So yes, a ketubah. The ketubah is traditionally a kind of financial contract, an agreement that the groom signs. And it's there to protect the bride in case that the marriage is, well, in case they divorce, when the husband passes, whatever the case may be, the bride, the woman, the wife, the right, she needs to have her rights solidified and known before they wed. And so we have what's called two parts to the modern day Orthodox wedding ritual. The first part is called kiddushin, where you sanctify the bride by, a ring or something else, right? And you say that with this ring, I'm setting you apart from everyone else in the world. Then there is the reading of the ketubah, and then there's what's called a nisuin, which is a cup of wine, a series of blessings, and then they are married. It used to be that there was a period of time between the kiddushin and the nisuin, right, where one would be the betrothal, right, the engagement, and then a year or so later would be the actual wedding. And nowadays, it's done in one, in one swoop of the sword. You get the kiddushin out of the way, right? The sanctifying the bride, and then you read the ketubah in order to have this, well, to have her rights understood and his obligations understood before they wed, and in order to have a break, however brief, between the kiddushin and the nisuin, between the engagement and the marriage. And nowadays it all happens under the chuppah, right? The canopy, as it's known. The ketubah that we receive, many people have artists, they buy special ketubot, they write their own ketubot, I don't know what, but we simply got the one that we were provided with by the Jerusalem rabbinate in 2002, 3. And that's it. I said I often, I hope to always, this is what I wrote to her. I wrote that I signed it, our two witnesses signed it, and I hope to always remember it, but never actually have to use it. Because if I need to use my ketubah, it means that I'm divorcing her, and I don't want that to happen. And now it's traditionally written in Aramaic, and those who don't understand Aramaic, usually somebody either gives the summary in Hebrew or reads it out in Aramaic and in Hebrew, or sometimes only in Hebrew. Ours is written in Aramaic. I can understand the ketubah's Aramaic. I'm not fluent in any way, but I can understand the Aramaic there, having grown up religious and gone to religious schools. I can understand it 90-something%, if not the whole thing. So I didn't have a problem signing it. It wasn't as if I was signing something that I didn't understand. When you're going to sign something, it's best if you understand what you're signing, or at least be able to read it. And so again, I hope to remember it because it's basically right. It's a reminder of what my obligation is towards my woman. material, financial, right? I sort of take her under my wing, and I mean that in the best possible way. And okay, so BMXers wanted to know why I didn't broadcast yesterday. So yesterday we had a family thing, so I'm broadcasting now. And he also said, by the way, I'm watching an animation of the Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim, so I might take a while to respond. Now, I've seen the pop-up still frame, right, static image ad on Reddit, and people tell me, is it worth watching? Is it worth watching an animated Lord of the Rings Rohirrim? What is it? Is it just the warriors of the Riddermark? The land of Rohan? Oh man. Whether it's the book, whether it's the movie, regular extended version, what have you, the Rohirrim are badasses, man. They really are. What else? Right, BMXer says someone who made a comment about Jewish pride and gay pride, and I asked, what do you think he was referring to? And he said, probably referring to the state of Israel supporting gay rights. I told him, yeah, Israel is pretty gay-friendly. It has its gay-friendly areas. Tel Aviv is always on those lists of most gay-friendly cities. It's difficult to believe that up until around 40 years ago, it was still a crime, 30-something, 40 years ago, it was still a crime to be homosexual in Israel. And even though that law wasn't, so he asked, was it literally against the law or just considered bad by society, like taboo? It was both, and the law was very seldom enforced. I have no idea, but it's a very, very, very small percentage of cases, really, I believe, where this was actually enforced. But it was on the rule book, right? It was in the Book of Laws of the State of Israel, and it was considered bad by society. Now, right, say what you want about gay rights and all of that. Israel is still a very religious and, in its way, very conservative country. Sure, we have our liberal sides, our Tel Avivs, but it's that tension, right, of Tel Aviv and Yerushalayim that makes Israel so very awesome. And it's my home. Okay, so Nezer wrote about the great failure of the Sanhedrin. Since I said, you know what, I only read the New Testament once, I probably got it wrong. And I asked him to, or anyone out there, right, for the chapter and verse of where the Sanhedrin actually either condemn him, find him guilty. And so I really saw that just now as I was preparing to go live, and it's a long thing. And so I will read that hopefully tomorrow or on Monday or I don't know what. And he says about things that were before in that video. He says, we've agreed many times there are infinite ways to misunderstand something, and I refer to the understandings, not misunderstandings, right? He sees it in the positive and not the negative. He says the understandings are truthful, no matter how we misunderstand them. It's a real dichotomy with Nezer here on what he, The corruptions you speak of between divine thought and writing are much less than you think, generally only feebly describing the indescribably. Right, I was talking not necessarily about corruptions. That's the word he gave to it. What I said is that there were, and eventually in some cases definitely an agenda when people were writing down things that were oral before that, passed down. You definitely use the pen or the quill in order to put yourself in there as well. Okay, let's see. The corruptions you speak of between divine thought and writing are much less than you think, but they are there nonetheless. However feeble you think it is, only feebly describing the indescribably. I'm not sure I get that, but okay. Did I mention corruptions? Is that the word that I used? I doubt it. I don't think so. I think maybe it opens it up to the possibility of being corrupted, but I don't think that I said that it's corrupted. I simply said that I think that it has undergone some measure and degree of change, and that matters. It really, really matters. And he says, granted, a prophecy doesn't mean it must come to pass, only very likely. Now, I mentioned, prophecies that are for good and prophecies that are, the negative and bad ones, right? Of woe and destruction and exile. And how the good ones are meant to be, and the bad ones, let's say, can be, well, they can be taken out of the equation when we get our act together, and there will be no need for said prophecy to come to pass. So when you say that, Sneezer, I wonder if you mean that in negative and positive cases, it's only very likely. He says, I didn't think you would understand the smoke and mirrors, right? He mentioned in a comment in the last video, in the last stream, something about smoke and mirrors, and he explains, because I really didn't get it at the time. He says, Torah is the mirror, God in the smoke. Light is actually love, and fire is actually truth, only burning those who misunderstand. Okay. So these are obviously, all right, talking about the people of Israel. That's, if I recall, what his comment was at the time during the live stream. And he says that we sort of have the wrong, we are being burned by our, right, the people of Israel here are being burned by our misunderstanding of light and fire, love and truth. Right? He considers that unconditional love to be, right, since he's a Christian as well, to be that manifestation of Jesus. Smoke and mirrors. Torah is the mirror, God in the smoke. He says, ponder it deeply. Well, I will have to go back, not now, and read the comment that this addendum, right, is based off of. Is based off of, yes. And he says, there is only one better way to show your love for someone than dying for them, living for them. And I tend to agree with that. I really do tend to agree with that. So hopefully I'll get back to him. I'm going to give that a heart, because I just saw it now before I went live. Do the specific candles or places hold any meaning in the menorah? Christians use Advent candles, peace, hope, joy, love, and then last, Christ. So, what, a sort of succession of candles, if I understand that correctly? Peace, hope, joy, love, and then Christ. Interesting. I wonder, I mean, does it go from top to bottom, from bottom to top, from, left to right? How does it go? So I questioned, do you mean the Hanukkah menorah, the Chanukiah, that has room for 8 candles and 1 candle to service the 8? Or, right, with nine altogether? Or do you mean the 7-candle menorah made of gold in the tabernacle and later the temple? Right, and King Solomon, he put 12 of them. Okay. So, yes, they hold a great meaning. The menorah, right, in both cases, the answer is yes. The specific candles and the places where we place the candles have meaning. With the Chanukiah, it's generally put outside of one's door, opposing the mezuzah, meaning on the side of the door. On one side, you have 2 parshiot, right, 2 small portions of the Torah, written by a scribe, placed inside of a sort of sheath and inside of a casing, and you put that casing on the door. It's known as a beit mezuzah. It's you put that any place where you dwell, you put it on the main entrance. People put them in all the different rooms except for the bathrooms. And it's well, so let's put it this way: you put your Hanukkah menorah, the Chanukiah, outside, opposing, right, set against, right. You've got, if you're standing at the entrance to the house, right, you've got the mezuzah on the right, and you've got the Chanukiah on your left. And that way you are surrounded by mitzvahs as you enter or leave the home. And the placement outside is so people from the outside see it and remember the great miracle of the victory and the miracle of the oil that occurred. And to rededicate themselves as the Maccabees, right, as the Hashmonai did. As for the menorah in the temple, it's there in the sanctuary, in the Kodesh, and it's there, is it in the west? I believe it's in the west of the tabernacle. Oh no, am I thinking of Ner Ma'aravi? Menorah Batzafon. Right, okay. Menorah Batzafon, Shulchan Badarom. Let's see if I have that correctly. Menorah Batzafon. I think it was in the north, but the Western candle has a special place there. Menorah batzafon. Hang on a second. Menorah batzafon. Now it's given me all kinds of companies named Menorah. Menorah, Mikdash, batzafon. Menorah, Hatzafon, ta 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 ta. Where is it? Where is it? Yes. No, wait. Menorah badarom? The menorah was in the south? Oh, yes, it was in the south. I got it wrong. It was the table of offering of bread in the north, and the menorah in the south of the tabernacle, right? And then you had the incense in between them, right? The golden altar of incense. So let's see. The menorah over there, the temple, the tabernacle, and all of its, well, everything surrounding it was a manifestation of the divine feminine presence by and large. And it was that union between the divine masculine and feminine presence that the priests, Levites, and Israelites of their day were facilitating during the services, the offerings, be they of animal or grain, liquid, right? There was blood and oil and wine and so on, and water on the Feast of Sukkot. And it was all there to sort of awaken the male divine presence, the masculine divine presence, to come and unify the two. Think of the working and the worship in the temple and the tabernacle as the lady trying to seduce the guy. And we are sending things outward, right? We are dropping hints and signals, but being pretty direct, pretty surgical with our "this is happening now." That's the Mikdash. That's where Yisrael do their thing. And so, being that that is the case, the menorah, which is a spreader of light and warmth, it's said that the light never actually went out until the Mikdash was destroyed. There is an opinion that the westernmost candle would always be burning. See, the priest early in the morning and later in the evening, the different priests, plural, or maybe it's the same one for both. Either way, twice a day they would clean it and reignite the wicks, right? Clean it, add the oil, and reignite the wicks. And yet one opinion says that the westernmost candle was one that never, ever went out. And that's what's called a ner tamid, a forever candle, if you will, roughly translated. And some say no, that was a different candle altogether, and they would do all seven. The idea of the menorah always being on call, like the fire in the altar outside, right? The fire on the altar of sacrifice, the copper altar outside of the sanctuary, in the courtyard, never went out. They would always be replenishing the fire. Well, daily, that is. And the idea that outside and inside there's a fire that doesn't go out. And while outside it was, let's say, a more roaring fire of animal sacrifice and flesh and let's the meat, inside it was more subtle. It was incense. It was bread. It was the light of one candle and not an entire sort of pillar of fire outside on the altar. It's a little more subtle, I think. As you go inside more and more to the temple, there's more subtlety, I think. Maybe I'm not phrasing it properly, but that's what I'm thinking. So that's my little spiel on the menorah and the Hanukkah menorah, the Chanukiah. Okay, let's continue. Continuing the chat. Robert says, Ariel, reading the Torah plus seeing maps, Eden was a much bigger place, and the Garden of Eden was a small but big part of it. I can leave the verse that showed me that in the comment. Please do. Please do. And he says, Eiler says, it's going through January and February, and everyone can partake, but it's organized, and you send your numbers to this organization called Mega March. Yes, Mega March, Mega Walk, I say. They do events such as 50 kilometers in 12-hour challenge or 124, etc. This one is the challenge going for January and February, and it's limited to 1,000 days. You are rewarded with goodies and a medal. Limited to 1,000 days? I don't understand. January and February, how is that 1,000 days? Someone, please correct me if I'm wrong. Goodies and a medal I like. That's nice. And of course the great privilege of, being able to go out there and do it. Good for you. That's really awesome. You can go wherever you want, but you have to at least walk 10 kilometers in one session and track that with an app to have it saved to your credit. I see, so you're doing something as an individual, but you're also doing it collectively as a group. That's a great way to do that. Currently walking in my near city/rural area and planning to do some extended walks 20 plus kilometers down the Rhine River in Germany, or go some nature reserve in the eastern part of the Netherlands. Ezekif, good for you. Wat leuk. I'm sure you're gonna have a lot of fun. That's really cool, Eiler. Good for you. Please keep me posted on how you're doing and how it's going, and if you encounter anything out of the ordinary or ordinary which you consider out of the ordinary. I love it, he says, kicking off podcast, listening to music, or enjoying the places I'm going. Also, there's this certain feeling while hiking you feel locked into your rhythm, kinda trance-like. So I haven't hiked in such a long time, but I run regularly, and it's different, obviously, but I get that locked into your rhythm sense of feeling when I'm running. And I've recently also been favoring the treadmill a little bit and not the elliptical. And there's a lot more freedom. In the past, I said that I much favor the elliptical, and that's still the case, statistically speaking. But for the last few times I went running, it was with the treadmill. There's more freedom there. There is more freedom there. I like it. So yes, I understand what you mean differently, right? I know in times in my life when I did used to hike, I don't know if I could get into a proper rhythm because I would always be, I would stop to look at this, I would sit down to write, it was more dynamic in the sense of that it's not, when you mean locked into your rhythm, do you mean of walking, of hiking, or do you mean locked into your rhythm of what it is be here now? You know what I'm saying? What kind of rhythm? Do you mean actually of pacing and hiking, or do you mean your own rhythm? If it's the latter, then I definitely know what you mean. If it's the former, I can't really relate, though I can understand. I can relate in as a runner. Not a professional runner, just a runner. Robert says, has anybody heard the song Hobo's Lullaby? Hobo's Lullaby. Wait, hang on, I gotta get... my foot fell asleep. Hang on, I've been in like a semi-lotus here and my foot fell asleep. Okay. Has anybody heard the song Hobo's Lullaby? Oh, you know what? I think I have. I think someone... hang on, I'm going to Google this real quick. No, I haven't. Woody Guthrie? No, I haven't heard it. But I will. So I'll put it up there and I'll listen to it later. He says, Robert continues and says, I noticed whenever people left the garden part of Eden, they went eastward. Eastward, right? Where the sun rises, to where the light comes from. You know what I'm saying? Robert says, has anybody in this chat ever hopped a train? So I haven't, but I'm not in the chat, so haha. Eiler says that train hopping must be a thrill. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is still, even for those who consider it a lifestyle. Wait, hang on, I gotta get back into a better position here. Okay. Yes. All right, let's continue. KJB says, hi, KJB. Good to see you again. He says, so the menorah can be 7 or 9 flames? No, the menorah is 7. That's what it is. And it's also the seal of the state of Israel, a menorah flanked by 2 olive branches. And the Chanukiah or Hanukkah menorah, as it's known, is 9, but you don't really need the 9th one. The 9th one is only there to service the 8. And you differentiate the 8 which you light, one for each night. And the servant flame, the shamash as it's known, by making it a little higher or in a different position or in something to differentiate it from the ones that are the proper Hanukkah candles. So usually a Chanukiah is 9, 8 plus 1. A menorah is always 7. And it did not have a candle that would service them. What it did have, as those who say that the Western candle was always lit, they say yes, that acted as a candle and as a place to light from, where the other candles would have been lit from. And those who say no, 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 the menorah in the temple, the tabernacle did actually go out, and they redid it, and there was no eternal flame there, then it means that it was just a regular candle, and so it had to be reignited. Right, original was 7. That's right. Rabbis added 2. No, the rabbis didn't add 2. That's not the way that happened, because it's not as if it's based off of the menorah, likely, but it's not taking the place of the temple's menorah. It's one of the miracles that happened on Hanukkah is the fact that the menorah was able to be lit and that it stayed lit while the festival was going on for 9 days. Ariel says, if you were in an Indiana Jones movie and you were exploring an underground tunnel, suddenly a giant wave of wine from one end of the tunnel started traveling towards you. In the other side of the tunnel, 1,000 booby traps get sprung, releasing sticky fly traps everywhere. You notice to your despair another side tunnel full of dead bodies. Which direction would you run? Ariel, my man, what? Let's put it this way. Sticky fly traps? Wait, what's the deal with booby traps and fly traps? Well, where did that come from? I mean, I'm a Samson Nazarite. I can be defiled by the dead. Some say because a Samson Nazarite cannot truly be defiled by death. But that's a different story altogether. Not really, it is the Hebrew Nazarite channel, but I digress. So Indiana Jones exploring a tunnel, a giant wave of wine, and on the other side, 1,000 booby traps, and then I notice in my despair a side tunnel of dead bodies? What an awful decision. I mean, I don't want fly traps, booby traps, or wine. Now, can I swim in this wine? I don't mind swimming in it, but if it simply sort of passes me by, heck, yeah, I would go for the wine, because I'm not running into a bunch of dead bodies. That is, no, I think I'd take the wine, but be more specific. Do you mean I'd be killed, or where do we stand here, Ariel? Okay, he said, KJB says, someone said, oh, hey, James Bong is here. Hello, James Bong. Hello. Shalom from West Kentucky. Hope that you had a blessed and beautiful Hanukkah. I did. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. I did, and I hope all of Israel did. May we be able to shed some more light into our own lives and lives of others in the best possible way. The best possible way. Okay. Someone said, maybe it was HN, that 7 represented the natural world and 8 the supernatural, so I'm wondering what 9 means. Right, so it's not really 9, it's 8 plus 1. The thing with the Hanukkah menorah, the Chanukiah, and its 8 candles is that the candles themselves are sacred. You are not allowed, let's say, to read next to them and use their light. You are not allowed to use their wicks and their flames for anything else but burning the Hanukkah oil, or, the wax, whatever, burning the candle. You can't use the Hanukkah's light, and you can only enjoy it with your eyes. It says, Hanerot halalu kodeshem, these candles are sacred, these candles are sanctified, these candles are set apart. In what way are they set apart? That you are not allowed to actually make any use of them. They are there so you can look at them and remember the miracle. Remember, right, the rededication that happened during these days, and maybe rededicate yourself towards goodness. Right, the Hashmonaim died for what they believed in. The rebels, the army, they fought like lions, like warrior poets, to quote Braveheart. And what is it what are your hills, right, that you're dying on? You know what I mean? Or what hills are you willing to die on? Now, 9, tet has a meaning in the sense that it's 1 before 10. And if you look at Aleph through Yod, and if you look at the divine revelation in the Tree of Life of 1 through 10, of Keter to Malchut, it means that it's really 9 plus 1, because the 9 represents everything that is occurring. The 10th one is simply, let's say, an empty vessel that takes it all in. And so the 9 has great significance because it is through the relationship of the upper 9 that the 10th one can be revealed in so far as it is, right? In the specific, unique way that it is, moment to moment. The way the divine revelation is revealed here in the physical world, that's the culmination of the divine emanations of the 9 sfirot before it. And in that sense, 9, right? And 9 is it says Eser Sfirot Blima, right? Eser velo Tesha, Eser velo 11, 10 and not 9, 10 and not 11. It's that leading to someplace. 9 is incomplete in that sense. But what 9 means, it doesn't mean anything in the sense of the Chanukiah, since the 9th candle doesn't count as a Hanukkah candle. The Shamash, right? The servant candle, the server candle, that's there to serve and to be, to tend and care for the other candles should they be extinguished, because you can't light a Hanukkah candle from another Hanukkah candle. You may only use the Shamash candle. That's what it's there for. Now, 9 has other meanings, of course. I don't know if in this context it does. Obviously, I take the 9 and I go immediately to the 10 Sfirot, but 9 in this case is irrelevant. It's the 8 that is relevant, like you pointed out. That 7 is the natural world and 8 is the supernatural, or the spiritual, or the infinite, or that which is outside of our natural understanding, still a part of us, kind of like an aura. We have the potential, the ability, the capacity, but it's still outside of us, and we need to sort of be pulling it in. And the more we pull in, the more we know that there's, right, more to take in. Christ is king, says Gus Diavel, or Devil, or Devil, or Davil. Hi, Gus. Good to see you, man. I appreciate it that you can say that Christ is king. I don't agree with you personally, but I get it. Go dogs. Indeed, Jesus is king. Yes, well, those who follow Jesus say that all the time, and more power to them. You know who else likes hiking? Pinky, says James Bong. She did go hiking once or twice in her life, and she did enjoy it. But she's more of a home dog. Gus Devil says, is it Devil? I'll go with Devil. Says 2 olive branches, Elijah and Enoch. Interesting way to look at it. Chanoch and Eliyahu. I like that. James Bong says, oh, what you just said reminds me of something to ask you. Well, it's a good thing we're here in the Q&A, aren't we? Not that I necessarily have the answer, but it's good to be asked. If Adam committed the first sin, no, technically it was the land that committed the first sin. If we say that sin means to miss the mark, lachto, on the 3rd day before the creation of man, it was the land that sinned first, thereby laying literally the groundwork for Adam to sin later. Okay, if Adam committed the first sin, why would his sin be held accountable for us when we cannot bear the iniquities of our fathers? Well, it's a different... Let's put it this way, because he is not separate from us. We are literally part of Adam HaRishon in the, some say physically speaking, but definitely spiritually, right? We are part of Adam HaRishon. We ourselves committed that sin as well. We have in this divine spark of life that we carry, that divine image. There's a reason why we are this divine image, or we have the capacity, the ability, the potential of manifesting that divine image, because Adam HaRishon, right, was made in God's image, and we are part of Adam HaRishon. We're not bearing the iniquities of our fathers. We are bearing our own iniquity in that case of Adam HaRishon. So, as for being held accountable, now, if you also say, as a contention that I make, if you will, that the sin was not necessarily partaking of the fruit, that's like human curiosity, but shifting blame and not taking responsibility and ownership and not humbling, right, ourselves, that was the more grievous sin and the more egregious, if that's the way to put it, sin. And in that sense, that's part of who we are as people. And we are supposed to be learning from these stories of the Torah, things that matter to us here and now in this world, not in Eden, outside of it. But we can have many teachings and lessons and morals to gain from these Torah portions. So I hope that kind of addresses it, if not actually answers it. What do you people think? Are we actually part of Adam? Whether you say chronologically, genealogically, or whether you say conceptually, spiritually, right? Are we a part? If we're not part of Adam after the sin when he got the flesh, then definitely we were a part of Adam. Let's say, I'm saying one way to think about it, definitely. You can think of it as before the scales fell off their eyes and before. Where were we? Who were we? Excuse the typos, he says. Definitely, obviously there are typos. Eiler says, good for you, enjoying running. Love to run short bursts for speed or keep a certain pace, but that's what I have with hiking, the pace, my own speed, the repetition. It becomes a meditation. Yes, to the rhythm. That's right. And what's lovely about that is that with music and without music, it's different, but I can get into it in both of them, right? With whether it's just me silent, or whether I'm, depending on if I'm outside or at the gym, but with headphones, without headphones, I'm able to find, especially with the breathing. The breathing is key, obviously, to life. But I'm saying when I want to get into that rhythm, it's the breath matters a lot. And the escalating as the minutes go by after a quick warm up. It's it's a thing, right? Running is a thing, hiking is a thing, walking is a thing. The pace, the repetition, the speed, the rhythm, it becomes a meditation. Yes, that's right. Definitely. And there are these gloriously human moments where I find myself dripping sweat, and I'm about to go into a sprint and finish the run. There's something so, when you're moving your body like that, there's something there. It's not a question of better or worse, but it's really, really different than, let's say, zazen, right? Sitting silent meditation or a mantra. And it's like meditation, but it's a whole other way of going about it. I really, really like it. I really love it. I'm not going to say I'm there all the time, every time I go for a run. Definitely there are moments. And definitely, again, like I said, with speed and pace and rhythm and breathing, it doesn't always escalate to this place, but it lends itself there so easily. Especially because, and this is something I do regularly, when I want to break into that sprint and finish my run, before that I take 30 seconds to 60 seconds and say, okay, even if all what I've done up until now, let's say, whatever it is, 20, 25 minutes or less, whatever it is, I say, whatever I've done until now, let's say these next 30 or 60 seconds, I'm consciously dedicating them to becoming better and strengthening my physical being, my body, in order to facilitate better decisions, becoming revealing more of Adonai in the world through this body and through the soul that dwells in it. Something along those lines, you know what I mean? And making it really a conscious and purposeful endeavor in those 30 to 60 seconds of bringing glory to God through running, which, again, it corresponds to things that I read by Rav Kook from Orot HaTshuva, and it also corresponds to, who was it? Was it one of the Babylonian generals, I think, or the kings, one of the kings of Babylon, who took 3 steps in honor of the Most High Hebrew God, and years of life were granted to him because of that, because he took 3 steps to honor the Hebrew God, something along those lines. The actual numbers escape me right now. I'll look it up, maybe, if you'll indulge me and say, yes, look it up by the time I get there. I'm reading things now from 9:36, and it's now 10 minutes to 10. So, You know what? This here is stuck. Right now I'm looking at the laptop where I'm supposed to be, seeing if, and it's stuck. I guess it's just my internet. I'm sure you people see me fine. Let me know if you don't hear or see me fine. Right now, says Eiler, I am hunting those numbers as in a game, but I am looking forward for those moments where I stop in nature and go, aw. Damn right, go, aw. That's right. That's right. And infinity in a grain of sand and all that. The fly traps might pull out your hair. Ah, that's the deal with the fly traps. Oh my god. What do you replace the wine with on Shabbat? Asks Robert. With challah. I sanctify the bread. Although the Nazarite can have, let's say, pomegranate wine or wine from other sorts of fruit, but not grapes. But as you know, I don't have any alcohol, so no wine will do it. But there are some good wines out there that are not grape related. Also, says Eiler, there is this realness of the nature forces, rain, cold, muddy ground, etc. Yes, 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 yes. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. That's another thing, by the way, those forces of nature, of rain, cold, muddy ground. I've experienced it as a runner in my youth, less now. Less nowadays. I usually will not run when it's raining, or if it's drizzling, I will. If it's heavy, heavy rain, I won't. If everything is muddy, I won't. I can't risk a fall or breaking anything right now. I'm, kids and all that. I can't do that. But I know what you mean. When I read that, right, nature forces, rain, cold, muddy ground, I thought of the army. That's where my mind went to, not to running, but to the army. And oh my god, I'll leave it at that. Nothing's going to kill you, says Ariel. Just a quick, tough choice. Wow. Yeah, I think I'd look. If the wine could pull out your hair to a lesser extent, he says. Ha ha. Robert says original menorah in Solomon's temple and David. No, David did not build the temple. His son did, right? Was 7. Oh, you mean David's tabernacle, Solomon's temple. Yes, that's right. That's right, that's right. Made from a solid block of gold. Unlike other things which were sort of constructed, created individually, different parts and then constructed or whatever, that was chiseled out of a solid block of gold. Miksha Zahav, as it's known in the Torah. Eiler says, hiking to me is activating my senses, puts me in the moment and grounds me, pushing limits. Yes, indeed. Hey, Bailey Underwood is here. Shalom, friend. Shalom to you. Peace, peace, peace. Thanks, HN, says James Bong. Well, we are part of Adam, but we are also part of our fathers in that same notion. But thank you, what you said clears that what I thought was a hypocrisy up. Well, again, do your research. Don't take my word for it. Robert says, how many kids do you think Adam and Eve had? The Bible mentions 3, but there was more, not documented. Yes, Vayoled banim uvanot. For the first 10 and 20, for the first 20 generations, it says, and they had more sons and daughters, right, afterwards. How many do I think? No idea. I have no idea. Really. I have no idea. I love the endorphins, walking, running, says Robert Harrison. Yeah. Yeah, those natural highs. And I say this as somebody who enjoys other types of highs as well, but that natural high of exercise, of after exercise or during, depending on what you do, right? If it's strength, if it's running, cardio, weightlifting, whatever the case may be, there's that real feeling of contentment that doesn't always happen. Some people are bitter for different reasons, obviously, but if you have the ability, do let that into your heart. Go exercise, move yourself 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 or 60 minutes a day, whatever it may be. Feel your body in motion. Take the time to notice and acknowledge that wonderful gift that is the body in all of its awfulness and inadequacies, in all of its frailty and all of its weaknesses. It's still such an amazing tool. And I see runners outside. I see people at the gym, at the park here, the street gym, whatever, with different things to do, and people at the actual gym that I frequent. And regardless of whether they're really, really muscle-bound and built, or whether they're overweight and trying to get fit, or whether they're just trying to sort of maintain good health, whatever it is, the people who are there, inside, outside, the people who are moving their body regularly, people who are working manual labor as well, same deal, different, but the same deal applies, where it's your body in motion, you're making things happen. To some degree, this also, of course, translates to yes, hands on the fingers on a keyboard. You can make some kind of comparison because it is using your body, yes, but I think you know what I'm saying. I don't get the same I don't get the same hormones and rush and contentment from the exercise that I do from the office work. You know what I mean? There's a different sort of contentment of a person being, standing in front of a job well done and saying, yes, I made that happen. Sure. But it's different. Obviously, it's different. So this body, with all of its awfulness, is also how we express ourselves, and it's also how we get things done. Our body, our mind, that tension between them. So I also do love the endorphins. I love the fact that I can run. I love the fact that I can walk, that I have the ability to speak, that my senses, it won't always be this way. That right now, it's a miracle, the way that microsecond to microsecond, the way that my body operates. So much of the most complex physiological processes you've ever seen are happening in the background. It's like an unbelievable thing. I hope I do it justice. I'd like to elevate my mind and body and soul and spirit and all that. And this is in part why I'm doing this here right now with you good people. And it's been almost an hour. So right now, take a word from our sponsor. Hello, it's me. Thank you for being here. This is so lovely to be here with you for the past hour and rant and rave and answer a couple of questions, address a couple of others. It's so lovely. I don't take it for granted. I take your time and your attention into account, and you know me, if I'm not able to do it, I'll say, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'll do it another time. I'll finish early. But so far, Yeaaaaa has been so good to me, and it's almost been an hour here in Jerusalem, and I'm live, and it's great, and the holiday of Hanukkah is right, this is the eve of its leaving, but I, as I said, really do hope that we're able to make good things happen in the world. All right, let's see. James Bong says, but yes, what you said sides with sin viewed as a failure to follow God's commandments, not an inherent condition of humanity. It became an inherent condition of humanity after we partook of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's what I'm saying. Eiler says, well said, embodying your life gift. Grab it. Yeah. Yeah, as David Data says in The Way of the Superior Man, right? To give your gift to the world. There's just you. There's only you. You have something unique, special to you to give to the world. I mean, it may take your entire days on this earth to figure out what it is and actually see it through or not. If you put your mind to it and if you put your body towards it to the degree that you can, I think that along the way you'll find some answers and more questions will be revealed to you, but you gather the wisdom through experience. And even though you may end up at a different place than when you started without, let's say, the questions that you wanted answered, you will still find, I think, a great special sort of meaning in seeking that out, right? In the journey. I'm trying not to speak in cliches, but speaking as somebody who is trying to hold on to a very ancient and I think most noble, let's say, or with the ability of being noble, right? A covenant, right, of the Hebrew faith, of Torah, of commandments. It has its moral and immoral sides, its good and its bad. But the place that we are shooting, for, the place where we come from, and Eden and all that encompasses, there's so much potential there. There's so much more there to be discovered that it's worth it to go and seek it out, despite the failures, despite the stumblings and the pitfalls, and despite the places where I'll certainly go splat on the floor. I hope I'm doing it justice, right, this body, and I hope that I will be able to sustain it and nourish it and fortify it so that I'll be able to work towards bettering myself. This is what Hanukkah is, rededicate yourself. So he says, Ariel says, with your better understanding of Hebrew, would you say that Adam and Eve, whatever you want to call them, were definitely individuals? I have read at least one Jew claiming they were groups of people. As illogical, radical, and wacky as it sounds. Well, I think if we're talking about Eden, I have no knowledge of Eden. If we're talking about after Eden, I believe at that point that, sure, they were individuals. But it could also be that it was one person in a whole village, like I said, that was granted that divine spark, and the people that Adam grew up with, let's say, in that village, were still that missing link in the right course of evolution. I don't know if I'm phrasing that correctly, or but I hope it's understandable. I don't know anything definite. There are no absolutes. To say that would I call them definitely individuals? No, I call them right. I call them humans. I call them spiritual beings, and right, going through that physical experience of biology and nature. It's like I said, the place where we come from and the place that we are going to come full circle, to return to Eden. So I honestly don't know. One Jew claiming there were groups of people could very well be. Never knew you ran, HN. Yes, I do. I mean, again, not long distances or anything. I've never done a half marathon or a full marathon. I have done a 5K. I have done a 10K. So I run regularly in the sense of that's how I start my exercise sessions with a run. Like I said, usually 20, 25 minutes. When I was training in yeshiva for the army, I ran every 2 days, 30 minutes. After the army, I continued to run every 2 days, something again like 30, 35 minutes. And there have been times where I've neglected it and focused more on, let's say, push-ups and sit-ups. There are times when I neglected not all forms of exercise, because I've always roughhoused with my kids. And, I consider that to be literally a form of exercise, even if it's not a gym or a specific set of exercises. It's still you moving your body. And I spar with them, I roughhouse with them regularly. So I've always moved my body. But yeah, running is definitely my favorite. I've mentioned this before, right? It's probably my favorite thing to do, if only that it's evident from the fact that throughout all of my, life, running has been a consistent thing that I've done, more on than off. So, yeah. Robert says 7 clean beasts and 7 birds, only 2 of everything else. Yes, right, the Noah and the flood, what he brought into the ark. The pure taho, right, ritually clean beasts and birds. Not beasts, animals, yes. BMXers with dreadlocks, wherever you are, hey, says Robert Harrison. Robert continues and says, they say, and it's true, walking helps you deal with stress. Yeah, I can see how that's the case. Go for a walk, right? I hear you. KJB with the emojis there. Ariel says, do you want to share some of your favorite authors, books, movies, directors, TV shows, etc. with us? You mentioned you like Derek and the Dominoes the other day. Do you restrict yourself from watching or listening to certain content? I restrict myself in the sense that I like more positive and comedic things, and I enjoy sci-fi, I enjoy Star Trek and Star Wars and that sort of thing. I normally don't subject myself, let's say, to very heavy movies, heavy documentaries, heavy drama, tragedy, real true crime, things like that. I restrict myself from that. I restrict myself from things like, I mean, let's put it this way: I'm not into gore. You know what I mean? I wouldn't. That's something that I wouldn't want to watch that at all. As for authors, books, movies, I mean, there are many. I'm ask me a specific. Be more specific. I have shared over the years of this channel. I have shared things about different authors, books, movies, directors, TV shows, and so on, whether it's through references that I, went on a tangent because of, or whether it's things that I was asked, over the course of the recent years. So I answered you regarding restricting myself. Yes, I do. As for restricting listening to other, do I restrict myself from listening to certain content? I mean, yeah, only because maybe I've sampled it and I said, nope, that's not for me. Or maybe I need to be in a certain mood, and so it's more, so it's more, so what I'm looking for. Anyway, guided by mood and or, my disposition at the moment, or whatever it is. Can't you hear those steel rails humming? That's a hobo's lullaby, says Robert. Seek truth. Hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Oh no, maybe I did see you a few days ago. Shalom from Oklahoma, USA. Shalom to you. Good to see you. Good to see you. I've got 10 people here and 4 likes. I deeply appreciate it. What fun. I don't take it for granted that I can just sit here and a few, good people are watching me live. It's lovely. It's lovely. The flaming sword turning every direction, good or bad. Well, it's not a question of good or bad. Like I say, it's the guard that later becomes a guide. I've spoken of the Kuvim and the flaming sword that turns in every direction in the past, so I see it as something where, depending how you're looking at it, it can be bad or good. It really does depend on the individual. Ariel says, suddenly a trapdoor opens below one of the tunnels, and below the trapdoor in the lower tunnel you discover a singing woman's choir. Ah! Yes, there's the very famous ruling of halacha kol be'isha erva, where basically you should abstain from hearing women sing live because it's something that you need to distance yourself from, and it is not allowed. It is prohibited, according to strict halacha, to listen live to a woman sing. Ariel and Sean Hurwitz screaming guitar. Yes, indeed. A women's choir and a screaming Sean Hurwitz guitar. James Bong says, I feel Adam and Eve were more an allegorical story based around the spread of technology like agriculture and the tools that made it possible, more than literal history. Right, and like I say, I can see it either way. It could go either way for me. The question is, now what? That's the question. I hope you are well, sir, says WD. Hello, WD. Good to see you again. I hope you are well, all of you out there. What was Adam's job in the holy garden? So, as it says, le'ovda u'leshomra, right, to keep it and to tend it, or to tend it and to keep it. Now, you can say that from what happened afterwards, we understand that his job, perhaps, was twofold. A, be fruitful and multiply. That's job 1. Job 2, partake of the tree of life when the time is right. We see that retroactively. But basically, if you're talking about a job, is to be fruitful and multiply. That was the commandment. That's the first commandment in the Torah. Be fruitful and multiply. Make love. Make love. Oh yeah. All right. James Bong says, not saying I don't believe in it, though, don't get me wrong. No, I hear you. But belief in something means giving it a certain amount of credibility, and it doesn't matter for the individual in the final analysis, or at least for certain people. I know many would disagree with me. To me, it doesn't matter in the final analysis. What matters is, again, what is the allegory? What is the practice of it? Where does it meet me? Right? And what do I do with it? What do I do with it? Do I just let it go? I've considered it in the past. God made non-vegan clothes, yes, to signify the departure from Eden. We are no longer vegan then, and then 10 generations later, we also eat meat. Or rather, life is allowed to be taken in order to eat meat. Before that, there's a very good chance that if animals died in nature, then that they would be consumed by human beings. But we are commanded, right, to do it in a certain way. On that note, wait, let's see. Were there other comments? Were there other comments from a couple of days ago? Oh, so BMXer says never eaten or tasted tofu either. So yeah, I told him that there are many ways to prepare it, many ways to consume it. And he said, set and setting. Yes, indeed. I think, you know what? Wait, hold on a second. Yes, I think. Oh, wait, James Bong says, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? As much wood as a woodchuck would chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. I'll tell you that right now. All right, and on that happy little note, I will say goodnight from Jerusalem. God willing, maybe I'll see you tomorrow for a short or a get ready of greater importance, if either. Oh, wait, I did a glitch just now? I guess I'll see if it happens here. Um, I will say goodbye, but first I'll. There isn't an either or. Actually sat down and said, okay, the way that I choose to live my life and these specific mitzvot and the importance that I place upon these ones as opposed to those, how many of them are in the negative and how many are positive, I actually haven't done the math. I haven't done the math. It's an interesting question. And I would pose it back to you in the sense of me. You know, Ariel, you've been coming here, you've been hearing me talk, you've been, engaging with me. Do you think I prioritize more negative or more positive? Right? What I do place great importance on, do you feel that it's more positive or negative mitzvot? I'm curious. Well, look, as I've said many times, most of the mitzvot are worship related to the tabernacle and the temple. So what we are left with, modern day mitzvahs, right? What we are left with is a small amount comparatively. Blessings on your house, brother, says Seek Truth, and you guys and gals. Thank you. I appreciate your time, your kind and gentle attention. Every like, every sub, every view, every comment. Thank you for your contributions, your gems, your pearls, your 2 cents, your shekel of wisdom. Ay, it's so much fun. And God willing, as I said, I'll see you tomorrow. If not tomorrow, on Monday. Be blessed. Be a blessing. Laila Tov from Jerusalem.